and you hear a shriek and your legs feel weak. It's a haunted house.
Hello, mysterious person behind the screen, and welcome back to Halloween month 2021. Today we're going to be talking about, well, you might have guessed from the title and this little display here, 1978's Halloween, directed by John Carpenter. I'm here in the little Halloween grotto today. I've sort of decked out my room with cobwebs and lights, and there's Charlie the Pumpkin Man behind me, and I die a little inside every time I look at him. Now, I couldn't let Halloween pass without talking about this immortal classic, but I didn't want to just write a review of the film or just talk about why it's good, because if you're watching this, you know why Halloween's good. You know why it's a classic. There are tons and tons of essays and writings on the film on the internet as it is. I kind of wanted to take this opportunity to share a experience of mine, my first experience with Halloween, the first time I watched it, and how it kind of set the tone for the whole franchise for me, for how I perceive the franchise, for how I perceive Michael Myers as a killer, and I'm interested to know if you guys have any other experiences like this with horror films, or films in general, ones where you just kind of had that perfect experience from the first viewing. So the first time I saw Halloween was in 2018. I was aware of the franchise, obviously. By that point, the new film was coming out. The 2018 film was coming out, and I wanted to watch the original, so I did. Here's the kicker, though. Every October, sans last year for obvious reasons, I go down to Wales because, as many of you will know, my grandparents own a caravan in Wales, and I go down there quite often. So usually every October, sort of the week of Halloween, I'm down there. And this 2018, no, it was no exception. I was down there in Wales and had the Halloween Blu-ray that I had just bought. I've since sold it on and upgraded to this 4K edition, but it was the 40th anniversary Blu-ray. So it got to Halloween night and I watched it, and it terrified me in a way that I wasn't expecting it to. And it did so because of the conditions under which I watched it. Because you see, the 31st of October 2018 was a very stormy night, if I can recall. It was really stormy. There was raining all the time, wind, you name it. And we're in a caravan when I'm watching this. I'm in a caravan, so it's not as if I can't hear what's going on outside. The wind is so loud, it's almost overpowering the sound of the film, the rain. It's just, yeah, it's a cacophony of sound. And it's dark and it's stormy outside. And I'm watching Halloween for the first time with the lights turned off. And that was the perfect, one of my favourite film experiences ever, because I remember when it ended, and that ending with Michael's breathing just echoing around the room, sort of going through the locations that we've seen in the film as dark locations, it chilled me to my core. And when I first watched the film, I thought, okay, it's one of these iconic slashers, but it's probably not going to scare me. I'll probably really love it, but it's not going to get under my skin so much. It's just going to be one of those things where it's like a monumental film I have to see. I did not expect it to have that power, and I genuinely think it's all because of that experience. In a dark and stormy caravan, watching this classic horror film in the dark, totally, and the lights turned off, on Halloween nights, you can sort of faintly hear trick-or-treaters just around the way. It was just like I was in the film. Like, I kept turning corners for the rest of the night and thinking, Jesus Christ, this is getting under my skin, because I'm thinking, is the shape round the corner? There's Michael Myers looking out the window? Oh, can you see something? No, it's just a person walking by. But for the film to have that impact, I don't think it would have had that impact had I watched it on maybe a Halloween day with the lights on and sunny outside, Wouldn't have had that impact. It was because of that atmosphere. It was because of under the conditions I watched it in. And because of that, I think my brain, every time I watch Halloween, it takes me back to that experience. And I make a point of only watching this film in the dark, with the lights off, maybe some candles burning, like pumpkins and stuff, near or on Halloween. What I did this year was, on the 1st of October, I took a night and I binge-watched Halloween and Halloween 2 back-to-back, because of course they take place on the same night, directly after each other. And I've never done that before, and it was a lot of fun to do. And of course, Halloween 2, not a patch on the first one, but it was just fun to kind of submerge myself in that experience. And again, watching that first film with the lights turned off, I had like the Halloween lights on, but it was still really dark. It was the atmosphere, it was the Halloween atmosphere. It took me back. It could have been Halloween. It could have been Halloween night for all I knew. It was just this eerie foreboding transcendent experience, and that for me is the only way to watch Halloween. It is under that circumstance, and it struck me watching it the other night on the 1st of October. The last 20 minutes of this film specifically capture a certain part of Halloween that I think a lot of films and a lot of shows never manage to replicate, and that is the end of it. When the last pumpkin's gone out, all the candles sort of dying down, the kids are all in bed, trick-or-treat is gone now. They're all gone from the streets are pretty much empty. Halloween's over, yet there's still this presence there. It's not just that this film captures this perfect Halloween atmosphere in the earlier scenes when we've got the fall leaves blowing through the wind and the kids getting excited for trick-or-treaters, which it does. It absolutely does capture that spirit of Halloween. But I see nobody talking about the fading twilight, where despite the fact that Halloween is over, evil still roams the streets. Evil still roams Haddonfield. In those last few hours of October the 31st, evil passes over that town like a spectre, like a spectre of death. And it's so eerie and foreboding. And last year, Halloween 2020, I showed my friend this film for the first time, and we spent the Halloween together, and it was a really fun night, like one of the best Halloweens I've ever had. Like I had so much fun. We carved pumpkins, did all that, ate so much shit and drank, and it was just this wonderful night. And there was a point where I think it was about 10 or 11 o'clock, so all the kids had gone by this point. Trick-or-treat had gone. Halloween, like I said, Halloween's over. The last pumpkins are fading out. And we just decided to kind of walk around the streets, and we weren't, we had makeup on and face paint, but we weren't really dressed up. And yet, walking around the streets on this Halloween night, where everything was fading over, and it was basically November at that point, it was just this perfect atmosphere, because as I was walking around, seeing the lights fading and seeing everything winding down, I was just like, this is really eerie, this is really terrifying, because it still feels like there's a presence. You get in those last few hours of Halloween night, there is this presence, this eerie spectre around the area that you're in. And it was just like that, sort of roaming these deserted streets in the last few hours of Halloween. And as I was walking around, I was thinking, Jesus Christ, this just feels like the last 20 minutes of Halloween. And we got back and I showed my friend the film, and he loved it. He'd never seen it before, he loved it. We had the pumpkin by the TV, carved, candle in it, amazing, and I just felt like, this is Halloween, it was just Halloween. It was just this perfect atmosphere to watch the film under, and it took me right back to 2018, watching the film for the first time, in those impossible, like the stars aligned, and it was just these impossibly perfect circumstances that just completely makes the film for me now, and I'm so glad that I got to have that perfect experience with it that I've taken through into other viewings of it. And it still scares me now, because Michael is just this force of nature. The shape, he's not human, He's just this pure personification of evil. The mask is just this pure stark white where a human once was. And like I said, he's just roaming around these deserted streets of Haddonfield and these dark houses. Nobody's in them. He shouldn't be in there. It's a home invasion kind of thing. And that completely, that sends shivers through me, chills me to my core. And again, something that kind of I noticed really for the first proper time when I watched it the other night, the classroom scene where the teacher is talking about fate, and she's saying fate is this immovable mountain, and fate never changes. I think she says fate stands where man passes away. And it cuts to Michael just silently watching Laurie from outside. Again, chills. Absolute chills. Really frightened me. And it was just like, oh shit, that is such a brilliant bit of writing. And throughout the entire film, everything just feels somewhat uneasy. It just, on Halloween Day and Halloween night, always, and I'm sure people will agree with me on this, as great as everything is and how fun it is, everything just has this uneasy, off-kilter edge. The autumn leaves and the pumpkins and everything, it just feels like there's something sinister going on underneath. And that is what this film captures more than anything else to me. That is what it says to me. That eerie, you don't know what's happening. The kids are trick-or-treating, blissfully unaware that across the street, Michael Myers is murdering his own sister. And it captures that imagination. And even though I'm nearly 20 years old, sometimes I'll just be thinking, like, you never know, like, on a Halloween, what is happening. And I just, yeah, and like I said, it came to a head last year when me and my friend showing it to him for the first time, and then walking around the streets, and it was just like, this film, like 40 plus years on, still has that power, and it, for me, just completely, more than any other, I think, bit of fiction, bit of media, distills what Halloween is, distills what All Hallows Eve is, and it captures that kind of fading innocence of it, and the twilight and the spectre of death that just kind of looms over everything. Like I said, especially in those last few hours of the night where everything's kind of dying down, it's just, there is nothing like it. And you know, I enjoy a lot of this. I enjoy some of the sequels, and 2018 was very good and everything. But I just, nothing can beat that original, and it still has its power today, and I find that exceptional. And I mean, I could go on and on. I haven't even talked about the impeccable photography by Dean Cundy, the score, which is just incredible and freaks me out to this day, and the incredible performance of Nick Castle as the Shape and the physicality he brings to it. Could go on and on and on, but there are writings on that, like I said earlier, tons of writings on that on the internet. This was just for me to kind of share my experience and to kind of put the question out to you. What films have you watched in kind of the perfect experience that have just kind of made that film for you going forward? Like, have completely altered your perception of the film because you watched it for the first time in these impossibly perfect circumstances and have just completely made them for you. I want to know. So please comment, let me know. Halloween, there are flaws to it, for sure. Loomis being outside the Myers house for so long before realising the car's there, it's like, yeah, that's stupid. There are things that don't hold up. But it's one of those films that every time I watch it, my appreciation for it goes up. It is lightning in a bottle. I think Patrick Willems described it as the perfect little mic drop of a movie, and it really is. This film just perfectly captures the Halloween season for me. It is the undisputed king of the slashers, and Michael Myers isn't my favourite of the big slashers. That'd probably go to Freddy, but he is just the distillation of what's scary about Halloween and the eeriness and the forebodingness. Every time I sit down and watch Halloween, I know that the spooky season has well and truly arrived. Make sure to stick around for my next instalment in the Halloween month, and like I said, just comment below and tell me what films you've watched under the perfect circumstances. I would really genuinely love to know, and if you've had any experience like what I had when I first watched Halloween, that perfect stormy night, let me know. Cheers for watching. See you next time.